I was in the kitchen making pasta when I heard the phone buzz on the counter. My husband, Mark, was standing at the stove, stirring the sauce, humming softly to himself. We'd been married for 11 years. We had 2 kids. We had a life that looked normal from the outside. But something had felt off for months. And when I glanced at his phone screen and saw the message that lit up, my entire world stopped. I miss you. 3 words from a name I didn't recognize. Sarah. My hands froze on the cutting board. My heart started pounding so hard I thought Mark would hear it across the kitchen. He didn't notice. He just kept stirring, completely unaware that I'd just seen the text that would change everything. I could have cried, I could have screamed, I could have thrown the phone across the room. But I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I picked up his phone, typed 4 words, and hit send. Come over for dinner. And then I smiled at my husband and asked him how many people we should set the table for tonight. What happened next taught me more about myself, my marriage, and the people we trust than I ever wanted to know. My name is Lauren. I'm 33 years old, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Portland, Oregon. I work part-time as a graphic designer from home, which gives me flexibility with the kids. My husband, Mark, is 36. He's a project manager at a software company downtown. We have 2 children, Emma, who's 8, and Noah, who's 5. From the outside, we probably look like the perfect family. Nice house, 2 cars, kids in good schools, weekend trips to the coast, birthday parties and barbecues in the backyard. But the truth is, things hadn't been perfect for a while. It started small. Mark working late more often, coming home tired, distracted, always on his phone. He'd smile at me, kiss me on the forehead, ask about my day, but it felt automatic, like he was going through the motions. I told myself it was just stress. Work was busy, he had a big project. It would pass. But it didn't pass. He started going to the gym more. New cologne, new clothes. He'd check his phone constantly, even at the dinner table, even when the kids were talking to him. I'd ask him about it. Who are you texting? Just work, he'd say, nothing important. But the way he said it, quick, dismissive, not quite meeting my eyes, made my stomach twist. I didn't want to be that wife, the suspicious one, the one who checks phones and asks too many questions. So I tried to ignore it. I tried to trust him. Until that night in the kitchen. Mark had offered to cook dinner, which was rare. He said he wanted to make his famous spaghetti bolognese, something he used to make when we were dating. I thought it was sweet. I thought maybe he was trying to reconnect. So I was chopping vegetables for the salad, and he was at the stove, and everything felt almost normal. And then his phone buzzed. It was sitting face up on the counter just a few feet away from me, and when the screen lit up, I saw it. I miss you. From Sarah. I froze. My knife hovered over the tomato I'd been slicing. My breath caught in my throat. Mark didn't notice. He was focused on the sauce, humming along to the music playing softly from the speaker. I stared at that message. 3 words that confirmed every suspicion I'd been trying to ignore for months. I miss you. Not, I miss working with you. Not, I miss our team meetings. Just, I miss you. My hands started shaking. I set the knife down carefully, afraid I might drop it. And then, before I could stop myself, I picked up his phone. I don't know what I was thinking. Or maybe I do. Maybe I was thinking that if I saw more, if I had proof, then I'd know for sure. Then I could stop wondering, stop doubting myself. I unlocked it. His passcode was still the same, our anniversary. Another twist of the knife. I opened the message thread, and there it was. Months of messages. Flirty, intimate, inside jokes, late-night texts, good morning messages. My vision blurred. I scrolled up, my heart pounding, seeing words like, can't wait to see you, and last night was amazing, and I wish we didn't have to hide this. I felt like I was going to be sick. And then I saw her message again, the one that had just come in. I miss you, wish you were here instead of at home. something inside me snapped. Not into anger, not into tears, into something cold, clear, determined. I looked up at Mark. He was still at the stove, completely oblivious. And I made a decision. I opened the keyboard and typed, "Come over for dinner tonight, 7 p.m. Lauren knows everything and wants to meet you." I stared at the message for a long moment. My finger hovered over the send button, and then I pressed it. I set the phone down back on the counter, exactly where it had been. I picked up my knife and went back to chopping vegetables. Mark turned around, smiling. "How's the salad coming?" I smiled back. "Great. How many people should I set the table for tonight?" He laughed. "Just us and the kids. Why?" "Oh, I thought maybe we were having company," I said casually. He gave me a confused look. "No, just us. Why would you think that?" I shrugged. "Just a feeling." He shook his head, still smiling, and turned back to the stove. And I kept chopping, my hands steady now, my mind racing, because in about 2 hours, Sarah was going to show up at our front door, and Mark had no idea. For the next hour, I moved through the kitchen like I was on autopilot. I finished the salad, I set the table, I opened a bottle of wine, I even put out candles, like this was going to be a nice, normal dinner. Mark noticed. "Wow, you're really going all out tonight," he said, looking pleased. "Well, you're cooking," I said. "Thought I'd make it special." He kissed me on the cheek. "I love you, babe." I smiled, but inside, I felt nothing. Just that cold, clear determination. At 6:30, I sent the kids upstairs to play in their rooms. Emma protested. She wanted to help set the table, but I told her Mommy and Daddy needed some grown-up time tonight. "Are you guys having a date night?" she asked, grinning. "Something like that," I said. Mark was in the living room, scrolling through his phone. I watched him from the kitchen doorway. He looked relaxed, happy even, completely unaware that his world was about to explode. I wondered if he'd seen my message yet, if Sarah had responded, if she was panicking right now, or if she thought it was some kind of joke. I didn't check his phone again. I didn't need to. At 6:50, Mark's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went pale. I was standing in the kitchen, pretending to wipe down the counter, but I was watching him through the doorway. He stood up quickly, his hand gripping the phone. He looked at the screen, then looked toward the kitchen, then back at the screen, and then he walked quickly toward me. "Lauren," he said, his voice tight, Did you use my phone earlier?" I looked up, keeping my expression calm. "Why?" "Because Sarah just texted me asking if I was serious about her coming over for dinner." I set down the dishcloth and met his eyes. "Oh, that." His face drained of color. "That? What do you mean, that? Did you send her a message?" "I did," I said calmly. He stared at me, frozen. What did you say?" "I invited her to dinner. She seemed to miss you so much I thought it would be nice for her to join us." "Lauren, she should be here in about 10 minutes. I glanced at the clock. "You might want to finish getting that sauce ready." "Are you insane?" His voice was rising now. "You can't just..." "Can't just what? Can't invite your girlfriend over? Why not? She's clearly important to you. I thought it was time we all got to know each other." He ran his hair through his hair, panic written all over his face. This is crazy. You can't do this." "I already did. And unless you want to text her back and tell her not to come, she'll be here any minute." He looked down at his phone, his hands shaking. I could see him trying to decide what to do. "Go ahead," I said, quietly. "Tell her not to come. Tell her it was all a mistake, that your wife found out and now you have to do damage control." He didn't move. "Or," I continued, "you can let her come, and we can all sit down like adults and have a conversation about what happens next." "Lauren, please," he said, his voice breaking. "Let me explain. It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I asked. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked down at his phone, and before he could answer, the doorbell rang. We both froze. The sound echoed through the house, sharp and final. Mark looked at me, his eyes wide with terror. Don't answer that. Why not? You invited her into our lives. The least I can do is invite her into our home. I walked past him, into the hallway, toward the front door. Lauren, stop, he said, following me. Please, don't do this. But I was already at the door. My hand was already on the handle. I looked back at him one more time. He looked like he was going to be sick. And then I opened the door. Standing on our front porch was a woman in her late 20s. She had long brown hair, a leather jacket, jeans, and heeled boots. She was pretty, younger than me, and she looked absolutely terrified. Hi, I said, my voice calm and polite. You must be Sarah. She stared at me, her face pale. I'm sorry, I think there's been a mistake. No mistake. Come in. Dinner's almost ready. She glanced past me, saw Mark standing frozen in the hallway, and her expression shifted from fear to confusion to something like guilt. Mark? She said quietly. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, looking like the ground had opened beneath him. Please, I said, stepping aside and gesturing for her to come in. We have a lot to talk about. Sarah hesitated. For a moment, I thought she might turn and run, but then, slowly, she stepped inside. I closed the door behind her, and the three of us stood there, in the hallway, me, my husband, and the woman he'd been sleeping with, in the most surreal, silent moment of my life. Let's sit down, I said finally, my voice still eerily calm. Mark made spaghetti. It would be a shame to let it go to waste. I led them both into the dining room. Sarah moved slowly, like she was walking through a dream or a nightmare. Mark followed behind, his face ashen, his hands trembling. I gestured to the table. Please, sit. Sarah hesitated, then sat down in one of the chairs. Mark sat across from her, as far away as possible, like he was trying to put distance between them, even though it was far too late for that. I went into the kitchen, picked up the pot of sauce, and brought it to the table. I served 3 plates of spaghetti, calm and methodical, like this was any other dinner party. Wine? I asked, holding up the bottle. Neither of them answered. I poured myself a glass and sat down at the head of the table, between them. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Finally, Sarah broke the silence. I'm so sorry, she whispered, her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know he was going to. I thought you knew. I thought you were okay with this. I looked at her. You thought I was okay with my husband having an affair? She flinched. No, I mean, he told me you two were separated, that you were living separate lives, that the marriage was over, you just hadn't made it official yet. I felt something twist in my chest. I turned to Mark. Is that what you told her? He didn't meet my eyes. He just stared down at his plate, his jaw clenched. Mark, I said, my voice harder now. Is that what you told her? He swallowed hard. I didn't know how else to. I didn't want to hurt anyone. So you lied. To both of us. Sarah's hands were shaking. I swear I didn't know. If I'd known you two were still together, really together, I never would have. But you did, I interrupted gently. You did know, on some level. Because if he was really separated, why were all those texts late at night? Why did he have to hide it? Why did you say you wished he was with you instead of at home? She looked down, tears spilling onto her cheeks. I turned back to Mark. How long? He didn't answer. How long, Mark? 6 months, he said quietly. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of him coming home and kissing me goodnight after being with her. I took a slow breath, trying to keep my composure. Do you love her? I asked. He finally looked up at me, and the pain in his eyes was real. "I don't know," he said. Sarah let out a small, broken sound. "You don't know?" I repeated. "You risked our marriage, our family, our kids' stability, and you don't even know if you love her?" "It's not that simple," he said, his voice cracking. "I was confused. I felt trapped, like I was losing myself. And Sarah, she made me feel—" "Don't," I said sharply. "Don't tell me how she made you feel. I don't care." He fell silent. I looked at Sarah. "And you? Do you love him?" She wiped her eyes. "I thought I did, but now I don't even know who he is." The honesty in her voice surprised me. I'd expected her to be defensive, to fight for him, but she just looked broken, lost. "He told me he was unhappy," she said quietly, "that he'd been unhappy for years, that you two barely talked anymore, that the spark was gone." I felt a lump rising in my throat, because some of that was true. We had been distant. We had stopped talking, really talking. The spark had faded. But I thought we could fix it. I thought we still had time. "Did you ever think to talk to me, Mark? Did you ever think to tell me you were unhappy? To ask if we could go to counseling or take a trip or do something, anything, before you decided to blow up our entire life?" "I tried," he said weakly. "I tried to tell you." "When? When did you try?" He didn't have an answer. I stood up, my hands gripping the edge of the table. "You didn't try, Mark. You gave up. And instead of being honest with me, you lied. You snuck around. You made me feel crazy for months, like I was imagining things, like I was paranoid." "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Sorry doesn't fix this." Sarah stood up too, her chair scraping against the floor. "I should go. I shouldn't have come. This was a mistake." "Sit down," I said. She froze. "Please," I added softer. "Sit down." She hesitated, then slowly sat back down. I looked at both of them. "I didn't invite you here to yell at you. I didn't invite you here for some dramatic confrontation." "Then why?" Sarah asked, her voice barely audible. "Because I needed to see this. I needed to see the two of you sitting here together and see if what you have is real, if it's worth destroying a family over." I looked at Mark. "Do you want to be with her?" He looked at Sarah. She looked back at him. And in that moment, I saw the truth. They didn't know. They had no idea. This thing between them, it was built on lies and secrecy and the thrill of something forbidden. But sitting here in the harsh light of reality, with me watching, it crumbled. "I don't think so," Mark said, finally, his voice hollow. Sarah closed her eyes, fresh tears falling. "Then why?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I don't know." And for the first time, I believed him. We sat there in silence for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Sarah stood up. "I'm going to go. I'm so, so sorry, Lauren, for all of it." I nodded. I didn't have the energy to respond. She walked to the door. Mark didn't follow her. He just sat there, staring at his untouched plate. When the door closed behind her, I finally let myself feel it. The grief, the anger, the betrayal. I sat down and put my head in my hands. And Mark just sat across from me, silent, lost, with nothing left to say. After Sarah left, the house felt impossibly quiet. Mark and I sat at that table for a long time, neither of us eating, neither of us speaking. The spaghetti grew cold, the candles burned down, and somewhere upstairs I could hear the faint sound of the kids playing in their room, completely unaware that their parents' marriage had just fallen apart. Finally, Mark spoke. "What do you want me to do?" His voice was hollow, defeated. I looked up at him. "I don't know. Do you want me to leave?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted to scream yes, to tell him to pack his bags and get out, to never come back. But another part of me, the part that had loved him for 13 years, the part that had built a life with him, that had 2 beautiful children with him, wasn't ready to let go that easily. "I don't know," I said again. He nodded slowly. "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight." "Okay." He stood up, hesitated like he wanted to say something else, then turned and walked upstairs. I sat there alone at the table, surrounded by the remnants of what was supposed to be a nice dinner, and I let myself cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that fell until there were none left. The next few days were strange. Mark stayed in the guest room. We were polite to each other in front of the kids, but distant, like roommates, like strangers. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. Not my sister, not my best friend. I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet, to make it real. But I knew I couldn't keep going like this. So a week after that dinner, I asked Mark to sit down with me. The kids were at school. The house was quiet. "We need to talk," I said. He nodded. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. We sat in the living room, across from each other, and for the first time since that night, I really looked at him. He looked broken, ashamed, lost. And I realized something. I was angry at him, hurt by him, betrayed by him, but I also still loved him, and that made everything so much harder. "I want to understand," I said quietly. "I need to understand why you did this. Not the excuses, not the justifications, the real reason." He took a deep breath. "I felt invisible," he said finally. "Not to you exactly, but to myself. I felt like I'd become this role, husband, father, provider. And somewhere along the way, I lost who I was outside of that." I listened. "And Sarah," he continued, his voice shaking, "she made me feel seen, like I was more than just those roles, like I was interesting, exciting, like I mattered." "You mattered to me," I said, my voice breaking. "You always mattered to me." I know that now, but in the moment I couldn't see it. I was so wrapped up in what I was missing that I couldn't see what I had. "So you threw it all away," I said. "I didn't mean to. I thought I could have both. I thought I could keep you and the kids and this other thing on the side. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just an escape. But it did mean something," I said. "It meant you were willing to risk everything we built together." He nodded, tears streaming down his face now. "I know, and I hate myself for it. I hate what I've done to you, to us, to our family." I wiped my own tears. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Mark. I understand. But I don't know if I can walk away either." He looked up at me, hope flickering in his eyes. "I need time," I said. "I need space to figure out what I want, what's best for me and for the kids." "Whatever you need," he said quickly. "I'll do whatever you need. I want you to move out. Not forever, just for a while. I need to be alone, to think clearly." His face fell, but he nodded. "Okay. And I want us to go to counseling, both of us, together and separately." "Yes, absolutely." "And Mark," I said, my voice firm, "if we're going to try to fix this, and that's a big if, there can be no more lies, no more secrets, complete transparency, everything." "I promise," he said. "I swear to you, Lauren, no more lies." I wanted to believe him, But trust, once broken, doesn't just magically come back because someone promises to do better. Trust has to be rebuilt, brick by brick, day by day, and I didn't know if we'd ever get there. Mark moved out the following weekend. He rented a small apartment about 15 minutes away. We told the kids that Daddy needed to stay somewhere else for work for a little while. They didn't fully understand, but they accepted it. We started counseling. It was hard, painful. There were sessions where I cried the entire time, sessions where I wanted to walk out and never come back. But I kept going, because I owed it to myself to try, to really try. And slowly, over the next few months, things started to shift. Mark was different. He was present in a way he hadn't been in years. He showed up to every counseling session. He was honest, painfully, brutally honest about his mistakes, his fears, his insecurities. And he listened, really listened, to my pain, to my anger, to my needs. He didn't make excuses. He didn't try to minimize what he'd done. He just owned it. And me, I started to heal. Not because I forgave him right away, but because I started to forgive myself for not seeing it sooner, for blaming myself for his choices, for thinking I wasn't enough. I learned that his affair wasn't about me. It was about him, his emptiness, his choices. And I learned I deserved better, whether that meant rebuilding with Mark or walking away and starting over. 6 months after that dinner, Mark asked if he could move back home. I said no, not because I didn't love him, but because I wasn't ready. I still had work to do. We both did. But I also didn't say never. A year later, we were in a different place. The kids knew the truth by then, an age-appropriate version of it. We'd worked hard to co-parent well, even while living separately. And Mark had proven over and over that he was committed to change, to being honest, to being the partner I deserved. So we started dating again, slowly, carefully, like two people getting to know each other for the first time. And it felt different, better, more real. I don't know what the future holds for us. I don't know if we'll fully reconcile or if we'll eventually go our separate ways. But I do know this. I'm stronger than I ever thought I was. I'm worthy of love and respect, and I won't settle for anything less. And that night, the night I invited Sarah over for dinner, taught me something important. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is face the truth head on, even when it's terrifying, even when it hurts. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is better than living in a lie. It's been 2 years now since that night in the kitchen. 2 years since I saw that text and made the decision to invite the truth into my home instead of running from it. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I wish I'd handled it differently, if confronting them both like that was too extreme, too risky, too much. And my answer is always the same: no. Because that night gave me something I desperately needed: clarity. I got to see Mark and Sarah sitting across from each other, stripped of all the fantasy and secrecy that had fueled their affair. I got to watch their so-called connection crumble under the weight of reality. And I got to see that what they had wasn't love. It was escape. It was distraction. It was two people running from their own emptiness and finding each other in the dark. But more importantly, that night gave me back my power. For months, I'd felt helpless, like I was watching my marriage fall apart and couldn't do anything to stop it, like I was a victim of Mark's choices, of his lies, of his betrayal. But when I sent that text, when I invited Sarah over, I took control. I stopped being the woman who was happening to. I became the woman who made things happen. And that changed everything. Mark and I did eventually reconcile. It took time, a lot of time, and a lot of hard work. But about 18 months after he moved out, he moved back in. Our marriage looks different now. It's not perfect. We still have hard days. We still have moments where the past creeps in and I have to remind myself to trust him again. But it's also stronger, more honest, more real. We talk now, really talk, about our feelings, our fears, our needs. We go on date nights. We make time for each other. We don't take each other for granted anymore. And Mark? He's a different person. Not because I demanded it, but because he chose it. He went to individual therapy. He worked through his issues, the ones that made him feel invisible, the ones that made him seek validation outside our marriage. He's more present now, more intentional, more honest. And me? I'm different too. I'm not the woman who ignores red flags anymore. I'm not the woman who stays silent when something feels wrong. I'm not the woman who sacrifices her own peace to keep everyone else comfortable. I know my worth now, and I won't settle for less than I deserve. As for Sarah, I never heard from her again after that night. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she found happiness or if she's still searching. But I hope she learned something too. I hope she learned that you can't build something real on a foundation of lies. That stolen moments don't lead to lasting love. That shortcuts always come with a cost. The kids are doing well. Emma is 10 now, and Noah is 7. They're happy, healthy, resilient. They don't know all the details of what happened, and they don't need to. But they know that Mommy and Daddy went through a hard time and came out stronger. And that's a lesson worth learning. If you're listening to this story and you're going through something similar, if you've been betrayed, if you've been lied to, if you're wondering whether to stay or go, I want you to know this. You are stronger than you think. You're worthy of honesty, respect, and real love. And whatever you decide to do, whether you choose to fight for your relationship or walk away, make sure it's a choice that honors you. Don't stay out of fear. Don't stay because you think you have to. Don't stay because you're worried about what other people will think. Stay because you want to, because you believe it's worth it, because you see real change and real effort. And if you don't see those things, walk away with your head held high, knowing that you deserve better. Because the truth is, sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you need honesty, you need respect, you need someone who chooses you every single day without hesitation. And if they can't give you that, then it's okay to let them go. That night when I invited Sarah over, I wasn't trying to save my marriage. I wasn't trying to punish Mark or humiliate Sarah. I was trying to save myself. I was trying to take back the power that betrayal had stolen from me. I was trying to face the truth instead of hiding from it. And it worked, because now, 2 years later, I'm not defined by what Mark did to me. I'm defined by how I responded, by the strength I found, by the boundaries I set, by the life I rebuilt. With him or without him, it didn't matter. What mattered was that I chose myself. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this. Face the truth, even when it's terrifying. Stand up for yourself, even when it's hard. And never, ever forget your worth. Because you deserve a love that doesn't make you question yourself. A love that doesn't hide in the shadows. A love that shows up fully, honestly, every single day. And if you don't have that right now, don't settle. Keep searching. Keep believing. Keep choosing yourself. You're worth it.